If you're only trading TQQ, then you're probably missing out on some big leverage ETF opportunities. And the reason has nothing to do with the ticker. So if it's not the ticker, what actually matters? Behind me is a weekly chart of TQQQ. It's a line chart. Now, normally I use the candlestick charts, of course, but for today's session, I want to cover just the weekly charts. So, why is that? The major reason is because the weekly charts establish bias. They also provide us what I'll call opportunity windows or when to get into trades. Now, like all my videos, this is not meant to be trading advice. It is for educational purposes only. But I will highlight what happened to TQQQ over the past 3 years. But wait, there's a lot more to this. A couple of things that I watch when I'm looking at the specific aspect of this and using the yellow line is the 50-day moving average. The other thing is the line chart of price actions based on the close. I'm looking at a couple of things. One is when the TSI gets down below the zero line, that's when it's in what I'll call a deep reset zone. And oftentimes when it gets down there and then breaks back above or sets up, it will go for a long run above the 50-day moving average. But is it worth our time to pay attention to that? And should we be looking for that throughout the year? These resets show up about once to maybe sometimes 2 times per year. And the biggest leverage ETFs moves aren't born from chasing breakouts. They begin after momentum fully resets from its lows. So when this reset happens, what does it actually set up? A reminder that the weekly reset does not equal the buy signal. It's the setup. It signals that an opportunity window is opening, and this is about preparation, not prediction. This isn't about timing an entry. It's about recognizing when opportunity exists. So when the window opens, how do you participate without chasing? That's a great question. Hi, I'm Dennis Wilborn. I'm the author of Trade Your Way to Freedom, where I lay out proven chart setups and triggers that work across all market cycles. In this video, what I'm going to be sharing with you is why trading only TQQ limits your opportunity, how the 3-bucket LETF, leverage ETF system, creates structure, how weekly charts define bias. We'll touch briefly on how daily charts allow participation and how to prepare calmly with structure for the next cycle. So once you understand the signal, you'll see it doesn't belong to just one ETF. So let's take a look at what this means for the weekly chart, what it shows us over the past 3 years for TQQQ. When the TSI crosses back up, that basically changes our bias to where we want to be more on the buy side. When it crosses the 50-day moving average, that gives us the secondary clue that, okay, I want to be trading this to the upside. Every little dip you see here on the weekly chart corresponds to what would have been a buy signal or a buy setup on the daily charts. And we see as it runs up again, what kind of a magnitude or how big of a move are these? And it is even worth your time. And remember, stop. So how long did these setups last before it dipped back down or when it hit its high? Well, in 2023, that moved up about 134 days. All the way out here to 2025, this moved up approximately about 200 days to reach its pinnacle. Now, I'm not providing okay, here's where I would have gotten out. That's not the intent of this particular trade. It's just to say, hey, look, there's some significant moves, 5 of them across a 3-year time span. That makes TQQ very interesting and straight up with you is TQQ of all the leveraged ETF since its inception in 2011 has provided the best returns of all the other leveraged ETFs on a year over year basis when you compound. And if you miss the compounding, go look at one of my other videos. I'll put a link down in the description about how to trade the daily charts and basically do your compounding over a year basis. So the thing about this is also to remember, if you're only watching this one ticker, unprepared for other opportunities that are presented with leverage ETFs. If you find value in this, you can learn more about me and my background at autopilottrading.com and make sure you subscribe to Market Tech Talk for more disciplined, rule-based trading and trading tips. So how do I stay flexible without chaos? As I've gathered up my stable of leveraged ETFs, first with the indexes, then the sectors, and then specialty ETFs, they basically fit very well into what I'll call the three bucket leveraged ETF system. The bucket is basically made up of index leadership. Of the three index ETFs that I watched, the S&P, the NASDAQ, and the Russell, it's the NASDAQ and the Russell that have actually performed best since 2011. Sector rotation. Now, while 2025 didn't provide us a lot of sector rotation, and the ETFs seem to be triggering off the same point in time, over the past years, though, it isn't always that way, and we'll see that here shortly. And then my precision momentum is what I'll call it. This is an assorted group of stock and crypto ETFs that have had some explosive growth over the past few years since they've come into being. They're both 2 times and 3 times leveraged ETFs. One of the criteria I place on my ETFs is that they must have weekly options. That sets me up for doing other strategies with these leveraged ETFs. So let's hit on the index leadership, the bucket number 1. And oftentimes they use the same weekly resets, and I use everything. Basically, I'm not changing anything about my system or my strategy. However, they give me slightly different exposure. The signals don't just belong to TQQQ, it belongs to the market. So let's take a look at TNA to see how it did over the same period of time as TQQQ. As you can see, TNA is a lot more jumpy than TQQQ. However, the signals are still very similar. Again, just as a review, what are we looking for? We're looking for TSI below the 0 line, and we get a lot of those across the board going across. But how did it do movement-wise, performance-wise, or how much potential was there on each one of these? Back in May 2023, we had this move here. Then again, later in October, we had another run here. And then we broke out in September 2024. And then finally, this same move that we saw in TQQQ also showed up in 2025 for TNA. So in comparison, how did TNA do on its own moves? On these 4 moves, TNA jumped 36%, 62%, 38%, and 69% over what period of time? A very short period of time. And similarly to the TQQQ, every time it pulls back to the 50-day moving average, that offered an opportunity to get back into a potential position. As we see on this last move from here to here, that was approximately 77 days. In 2025, the move from here to this high was 160 days. Now, Over the last 2 years or 3 years, yes, it hasn't performed quite as well as T triple Q. However, knowing that this particular entity is in your stable of leveraged ETFs makes it where it gives you another option just in case you miss out on TQQQ. And it's nice to know that this kind of move is available and it happens multiple times per year. Next up are my sector ETFs, and it covers everything from the oil field to the gold mine. How did it do over the similar period of time? Leadership rotates into these sectors. Now, if you go back in time and look, you can see where these either led or lagged TQQQ. So I encourage you to do that. Go ahead and do your own research on it. Go check it out. But the one thing to remember is that opportunity doesn't disappear if you're trading these leveraged ETFs. It shifts from one either index to the sector or from the sector back to the index. Let's take a look at see what one of these leveraged ETFs did over the same period of time as TQQQ since 2023. The sector ETF I chose was LABU. I've done this for a couple of reasons. One is it showed you for across this time period from 2024, not showing before 2024 on this one, simply because there was a reverse split. And when it does a reverse split, the chart gets all wonky. But let's just focus on the last 2 years. As you see, for across this time period, all the way until April of 2025, the biotechs were not getting traction. However, how much were they running? Well, if I take this move here to here, that's about 33%. Nothing to scream about, but still, here's another one here. What was that? 45%. But as you can see, it was just basically stuck in a trading range over this time period. But that trading range, which you could make some money on, was anywhere from 16 to 20 plus percent. Then we went into the prolonged downtrend. Then it bottomed. Now, what happened since it bottomed? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's go ahead and take this as a jump from approximately here, where we broke back above that, and we were on our way, and we ran all the way up to there. And that happened to be about 200 plus days. But how much did it gain in that time frame? Drum roll, please. You got to get ready for this. The question I have for you is before I put the number up, did LABU beat T triple Q for the largest gain in 2025? Let's find out. As you can see here, during that run, and the run was approximately, as I said, about 222 days. Over 208% was the run that it made. And notice, and LABU, I kicked myself in the butt because I traded LABU down here, got some nice little gains, but missed this whole darn thing right here. And I just kicked myself in the rear for missing that because that was a really nice run. Best leverage ETF run of the year, 208%. So if we've seen the sector rotation, we've seen the indexes themselves, what comes next? So as you see, we have the same signal that we had on the index ETFs, same signal, but different lifespan. We need to remember that. Learning how to hang on to these and let them run is both an art and a science. That's why I take profits at 10%, 20%, and then I let the rest of it run, or we'll rebuild the position. That's my plan. Okay. Does it happen? Do I make it every time? No, no, I don't. However, that's the plan and how I trade these. And especially going into 2026, I did this research over the Christmas holiday. And when I put on the line charts and just started watching this, I'm going, that's where there's additional opportunities that I'm going to take advantage of here in 2025. Okay, the last bucket is the precision momentum bucket. Same reset, different durations, and sometimes faster velocity and shorter runs. You have to be aware of that. They include some of the ones I like. You can see them here. Tesla, that's the two-time leverage ETF on Tesla, TSLL, NVDL, it's two-time leverage on NVIDIA. And then it works its way all the way down to XRPT, which is the last three are crypto leverage ETFs. And then CONL is Coinbase, also attached to crypto. So, how did this perform over the same 3-year period of time? Let's take a look right now. This is a chart of TSLL, the two-time leverage ETF of Tesla. This is the first leverage stock ETF that I've ever traded and did really well in the past and have continued to do so. We still look for the same information. We look for the TSI below the zero line. We had one back here early in the year. I didn't keep that in our calculations here, but I just focused, and there was 5 times across the 3 years where it went on a nice little run. Downtrend here, but I want to again drive home these bounce up here. That's a 47% move. So that's what caught my attention about the leverage stock ETFs is going, holy moly, that's absolutely phenomenal. And it's done that several times, but I have to be watching and paying attention. So I make it part of my routine to focus on these leverage stock ETFs. Again, just a few. I don't want to get bogged down trying to watch the whole universe of leverage ETF, but this is my third bucket, precision momentum. We had a move here, nice move there. Then going out to 624, which I think is right about here. Another move up here. And then 1024, which was this position right here. And then 425, and then another one over here earlier in the year, or about approximately the 8th month. So on those 5 moves, what was the percentage move once it did its breakout above the 50-day moving average? Let's take a look. So in those 5 moves, 139, 111, 237, 91, and 88% in a very short period of time, you can see why once I found Tesla, the TSLL, the two-time leverage ETF, it became one of the top in my leverage ETF bucket number 3, followed closely by NVDL. And what's really amazing is those crypto leverage ETFs also demonstrated similar type of explosive growth. Now, again, I'm not saying that these were my returns. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is these were the opportunities. And I want to make that clear that these can be opportunities if we watch. And what are we watching for? One more time is TSI below the zero line. The deeper it gets, the TSI, the better and typically the larger move you get. Same signal, different lifespan. And with these leverage stock and crypto ETFs, faster velocity and shorter runs. So you have to be ready for that. And clearly, a way to do that is you take profits as you move up and establish, okay, I'm going to take profits. And again, this is the way I do it. You can decide for yourself. I take profits at 10%, I take profits at 20%, and then I try to let my winners run from there. If you like this idea, go ahead and drop a comment and say, holy moly, I didn't know that there were leveraged stock ETFs that perform like Tesla. So if you will, share your biggest aha moment from this video. Remember that one ticker can't carry a full cycle. And the ebbs and flows of the market give you opportunities throughout the year. Buckets create flexibility and consistency. Consistency doesn't come from trading more, it comes from applying the same discipline whenever opportunity appears. So, are you prepared for the next cycle? Some cycles reward rotation, some reward duration. Your job is to be ready. So, I encourage you to one, be patient and be prepared. For traders who want this applied automatically, please check out our AutoPilot trading service, Leverage ETF only service, and I'll put the link down in the description. Remember, the market doesn't reward urgency, it rewards participation.